please, no tax increase. When the United States want to grow, they reduce tax. The multiplier effect of a dollar in the hands of a consumer and investor is much greater than the multiplier effect in the hands of government, right? And I wanted to mention, I forgot to mention that, CaPRI, it's not just a matter of increasing taxes, because if you were to go up by 3%, then you also have you might have some economic contraction, right? Tax revenue, okay, revenue, sorry. The second thing is, it's not just a matter of the companies like JUTC making losses, because I would like to put it to you that strategically increasing the loss of JUTC is the greatest return on investment that you can make in this country today. Because with 30% of your energy bill going to private transportation consumption, if you were to put 5 billion Jamaican into mass transit and get more people taking that, you could save about 700,000 to $1 billion US a year by doing that, right? So it's really how we target our debt. I don't think there's anything wrong with the debt, whatever size it is. Even if it's $200 trillion, as long as the marginal return on each dollar of debt is greater than the marginal cost of debt. And that is the issue we have, because 90% of our debt going to consumption without any return, rather than infrastructure and development.
Total agreement. Total agreement. As it relates to the tax, tax has a multiplier effect in government. The reason why we fear tax so much, I would want to be paying tax and not seeing the results. The reason why we fear tax is because of corruption, overspending, and all of that. But in essence, tax is supposed to work for us. Tax is supposed to work for the people. And I believe the core problem as it relates to the tax issue is the fact that too much is being said about corruption and overspending. So in essence, the tax doesn't really work for the consumer, the ordinary constituent.
I'd like to just make some comments on this whole taxation issue. We endorse the tax reform measures that are proposed by the Matalan report. We believe as a starting point, we're not necessarily pushing for tax increases, so nobody, don't get too frightened. We're really, as we're endorsing the Matalan report, we believe that we need to address the weak administration of a tax system as a starting point. There's a lot of inefficiency taking place that is really discouraging people from paying taxes, and we need to really tackle that area as a starting point. The report also spoke about the tax expenditure, where we're allowing some businesses to flourish without paying taxes. I believe that as we are currently doing some research on tax justice, I believe that's another area that we need to think about, the cost to the country of allowing these businesses to flourish without paying the taxes, so that everybody can benefit from what is happening there. So we need to look at those areas. There's also the problem of focusing too much on the income of individuals. And we're talking about the PAYE system that they have, and the taxing on returns, on investments, and so on and so forth. These are discouraging investment, and it's impacting the productivity of people. And these are the things that we're talking about when we speak about the tax reform. And we are specifically, targeting, or we're hoping that the government can target a tax reform that is pro-growth, so that, we have to be dynamic. We have to, ensure that we're not robbing anybody or discouraging anybody, but at the same time, money needs to be paid up.
I want to give him some advice, because I find out, same like how the government borrow and in debt, is same ordinary man like me on the street have to borrow and in debt. So I'd like some advice, or I can get out of this. Thanks.
I think sometimes it has to do with lack of proper planning, and as ordinary citizens we tend to prioritize incorrectly. So if you start prioritizing and planning and strategizing, I'm sure you'll be able to get it. Of course, that is wide and it has to be fleshed out, but maybe a one-on-one.
Acknowledging the debt crisis in Jamaica, what are some of the developmental strategies or projects that you would suggest that our policymakers embark on? Acknowledging also these development projects, most of them incur hefty costs for implementation. So what are some of these projects that could be embarked on without increasing the debt? Finally, how does UNDP expect and plan to help Jamaica achieve its developmental goals or the necessary development that is needed?
When we're talking about development policies, I personally like to, know what exists, the options that exist before I make a proposal. And I generally do that by doing my own research. But I believe as a starting point, if we are going to talk about developing the economy, money has to be spent somewhere. But there is also the option of minimizing what is taking place in the informal sector by formalizing the activities that the persons are involved there. Once we can tap into that sector, then I believe that there's a lot of potential for growth for Jamaica.